أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to Tuesday night program of Dua Tawassul. Inshallah, we'll start our program with the recitation of Dua Tawassul. Before I begin, request for Dua Sihat for a lot of mu'mineen, especially Brother Ali Raza Sumji of Dallas and Sajjad Jafar of New York. Please keep them in your du'as as you're reciting this Dua Tawassul to Ma'asumeen alayhim salatu wassalam. And inshallah, at the conclusion of the dua, we will recite Amma Yujib for them as well as for other individuals. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وسي الحسن والخلف الحجة، أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي، يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. Ask for your hajat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يا سادتي ومواليا، إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله، وتوسلت بكم إلى الله، واستشفعت بكم إلى الله، فاشفعوا لي عند الله، واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله، فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله، وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله، فكونوا عند الله رجائي. يا سادتي يا أولياء الله، صلى الله عليهم أجمعين، ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين، آمين رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات فاتحة، خصوصا Fatiha for the following marhumin who passed away just recently. Of course, marhum Dr. Kalbi Sadiq, who passed away earlier today, as well as marhum Allama Syed Muhammad Hussain Jalali, who passed away in Chicago a couple of days ago, and other mu'mineen, mu'minat, their marhumin who left us in this during this pandemic and passed away. Please recite a Surah Fatiha and 3 times Surah Ikhlas for all of those departed souls. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله صمد لم يلد قل هو الله صمد لم يلد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Also, there's a request for Dua Sahat for many individuals, Syed Hassan Raza, as well as Ali Raza Sonji and Sajjad Jafar, and all those people who are suffering, struggling, and in need of dua. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring them out of this difficult time, whether it's their physical ailment or financial or spiritual, whatever the case may be. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect them, bring them recovery. Let's recite this verse from Surah Naml together 5 times. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض إله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولقد آتينا لقمان الحكمة أن اشكر لله ومن يشكر فإنما يشكر لنفسه ومن كفر فإن الله غني حميد صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I chose this ayat from Surah Luqman, ayat number 31, verse number 12, which amongst the many ayat of Quran that draw our attention toward the concept of being grateful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while discussing or explaining or mentioning the story of Luqman, he says, and certainly we gave wisdom to Luqman. He was a wise man, saying, be grateful to Allah. And whoever is grateful, he's only grateful for his own soul. And whoever is ungrateful, then surely Allah is sufficient and Allah is praised. Ghaniyun Hamid. Practicing shukr or gratitude during the pandemic especially. Of course, we are in these days where one of the American holidays is upon us, and that is Thanksgiving. And a lot of people show their gratitude and their thanks, especially this time of the year. It's a trait which should be in us all throughout the year, but you see it more prominent, especially in these ayyam. So I thought it would be beneficial if we looked at it from the Islamic perspective. We talked about it last Friday khutbah as well. Something practical that we can derive from the concept of being thankful and practicing this gratitude. Practicing gratitude or shukr during the pandemic. 5 outcomes from it, inshallah, we will discuss. Number 1, gratitude enhances your immune system. Yes. And some of these words of wisdom that you hear from Imam Masoom, and then you figure as to how could this be so true. But then later on, a study comes about, shows and does a survey, and sees it after the study, the test, the results, then you realize the kalam of Imam, the kalam of Masoom is so befitting that it does enhance your immune system. A few studies have shown an improvement in immunity among those who regularly practice gratitude. Considering that COVID-19 typically affects those with lower and compromised immunity worse than the others. Of course, now everyone is being challenged by it, but more those who have low or compromised immunity, So keeping that in mind, having a stronger immune system can help you fight off the virus faster at the least. So therefore, gratitude, as a study shows, practicing regularly gratitude does what? It boosts your immune system. So therefore, that's number 1. Gratitude enhances your immune system. Number 2, gratitude is good for your mental health. Now, if you were challenging me on the first concept, on the first study, at least I'm sure nobody will challenge me on the second study here. That studies have revealed the impact of positive and thankful emotions on one's mental health. There is a direct connection with it. A grateful mind and heart ease the stress hormones and help one curb the negative emotions that they may have developed, right? An attitude of gratitude may be your key to overcoming the pandemic burnout. Of course, we're all burned out by it, but one way of burning this stressful environment is what? Having this good mental health is by having gratitude in your life. So that's number two. Number three, gratitude helps you appreciate life's simple pleasures. I think as we move forward with these different aspects of gratitude, I'm sure there are things that we can relate more. Maybe the first one was difficult to relate. The second was a little bit more. This third one, I'm sure everyone can be touched by it. That one of the most important things in our lives, to be able to appreciate life, and even to be able to appreciate these simple things in our lives. Sometimes we overlook them, right? So one thing most of us have come to appreciate during the pandemic, and that's looking at it from the um, optimistic point of view, right, is the simple joys of life that we took for granted for years. For many years, we were just taking some of these things for granted. For example, a hike in the park, right? Strolling in your neighborhood, riding a bike, playing with your kids, mindfulness, praying as a family. How much has that helped? Praying as a family, um, cooking a hearty meal for yourself and your family. For once, sitting down with all of the family members and enjoying a meal, uh, watching a movie with kids, for example, reading to stimulate your mind. You say, well, we don't really have time to read. Now everybody finds time to do that. Or, calling or Zooming, if that's a terminology these days, with your loved ones, as opposed to just WhatsApping, texting, and being on social media. And the more we are thankful to God for these beautiful blessings during the pandemic, the more we will be blessed with such opportunities. So I think everybody can relate to this fact that, gratitude helps appreciate life's simple pleasures, these simple pleasures that we have been taking for granted for many years. Number four, gratitude energizes you and others. A simple, heartfelt thank you can make someone's day, right? How many people have you come across and say, well, that made my day? A call to express gratefulness to someone for a favor can lift the spirits of a demoralized soul. For example, they were having a bad day, but you called in and you said, thank you for that thing you did. A note of gratitude to a loved one can evoke a bright smile on a gloomy and a fatigued face. But the impact of gratitude is not just on the receiver, but also on the giver. You are in the first, you're actually, in fact, the first beneficiary of the boost of hope and joy and satisfaction that an expression of shukr produces. When you help someone cross the street, or you help someone come out of some sort of, struggle, difficulty, someone was stuck somewhere, you help them come out of that, it gives you a joy initially. While it helped them, brought a smile on their face, but it also brings a smile in your inside of you as well. So more than ever, during this prolonged pandemic, sharing words and gesture of thankfulness with loved ones as well as strangers, it doesn't matter if you're walking around, it still is in order for your own mental and spiritual energy first, and as well as for those in your surrounding. And lastly, gratitude creates connection, collaboration, and community. We forget that we are a community. When you recognize someone's favor, it builds a reciprocal relationship. So and so did this to me. There's a concept of, reciprocating. So when you appreciate someone's time that they gave you, or their advice, for example, or other ways of them helping you, you don't only reinforce a positive behavior, but you encourage them to do more for you in the future. So this concept is there. Moreover, you will naturally return a favor with something similar or better. That's what Quran says. When someone says, salam to you, you return it with a better reply, with a better response. Someone is grateful to you, someone favors you with something, you at least you could do is do the same for them. But Quran is addressing us, no, it should be actually better than what they did to you. So gratitude creates a beautiful cycle of affection, solidarity, and service. This is what community building is all about, which has been, of course, minimized during the pandemic, given the physical limitation of the lockdown. However, with your deliberate actions of generosity and volunteerism during the pandemic, be it virtual or physical, if you can provide your services virtually or, in some cases with all of the guidelines in place physically, you're able to develop new connections and communities. As we have learned since the beginning of the pandemic, we need the entire community of selfless people to fight this disease. We're not in it alone. All of us are in it together. But we've seen how life is shortened by it. So many loved ones have departed. So many people left us just in the recent past. It may not have been because of the virus, but because of the virus, so many people have left us. And so life is too short to make enemies. There's a shair by the name Kalim Kashani. He put it beautifully in a couplet when he said, Badnami hayat doruzi nabud bish. On ham Kalim bato beguyam chesan guzasht. Yek roz sarfe bastan dil shod be ino on. Roz digar be kandan dil ze ino on guzasht. He said life was no more than 2 days. उर्दू में भी कहा जाता है कि 2 दिन की जिंदगी है, 4 दिन की जिंदगी है. मुख्तलिफ ज़बानों में, the different languages, they have different slangs for this. He said life was no more than 2 days. That too, how we spent it. One day attaching our hearts with this and that. Second day detaching our hearts from this and that. That's the entire life story. So you get used to something and then you try to get unused to that thing. And so he put it very beautifully in this couplet. So one can show gratitude through their tongue, through their speech, and sometimes through their actions and character as well. Example of practical gratitude in our Islamic culture is salat. The best way to thank Almighty for all the blessings is to pray. Allah ordered Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he gave him al-Kawthar. He said, Inna a'tayna kal Kawthar. O Prophet, we've given you in abundance. We have given you Kawthar. Kawthar refers to Janab Fatima Zahra salamullah alaiha. We've given you Kawthar, or goods in abundance. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala demand right after giving him in abundance? Fasalli li rabbika wanhar. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fasalli li rabbika. Pray after he granted him this Kawthar. So when you're given something by God, everything is received from him. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to go ahead and practically show this by praying. And that's what our Masumin did. Even fasting, Psalm. Prophets used to fast as a gratitude for blessings. The dual effects, right? You fast, you refrain from wrongful thoughts. While Salat keeps you away from evil and indecency, fasting keeps your mind clean from evil and indecency. And then, of course, the physical aspect of fasting, your weight check and all that stuff. And then it serves as a gratitude for blessings. Then serving food. If an illiterate asks a literate person to write something, person who knows how to write shouldn't refuse. You should oblige as a gratitude to his ability. Allah mentions in Quran, وَلَا يَأْبَ كَاتِبٌ أَن يَكْتُبَ كَمَا عَلَّمَهُ اللَّهُ. Let not the writer refuse to write as Allah has taught him. So that's the way you could do someone good. someone, to show your gratitude toward that skill that you possess. This is a practical way of doing it. Being content. Prophet said, "Kun qana'an takun ashkuran nas." Be content, and you will be the most gracious of mankind. Be qana'at pasand. Have content in your life, and you'll be the most gracious of the people, because the least you, the more you show content over whatever you have, you'll be able to appreciate, and you'll be able to thank and have that gratitude. Taking care of orphans. Allah said to the Prophet that we gave you paradise because you were an orphan. Don't shun the orphans away. فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. Helping needy and the deprived. Allah said to the Prophet, in gratitude of the fact that you were in need, we made you self-sufficient. If even a beggar comes to you, don't turn him down. وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. Thanking others. Allah has said to the Prophet that in order to encourage and thank the zakat givers, those whom you were collecting the zakat, which is an obligation upon them, right? It's a tax that was placed upon them. Send salutations on them. Although they're doing their obligation, send salutations on them, since your salutation will provide what? Comfort to them. وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ إِنَّا صَلَاتَكَ سَكَنٌ لَهُمْ. Pray for them, send salutations on them. It will serve as a comfort for them. I'll conclude. Being grateful during calamities, and we are going through a calamity. What are some of the outcomes of it? This is thinking positively. If we knew others, they're struggling more than us, we'll be able to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what we have. If we knew difficulties increase our attention towards Allah, we'll say, well, let more difficulties come to us. If we knew that difficulties break our pride, right, and make us soft-hearted, we'll say, well, more and more difficulties. If we knew that difficulties remind us of those suffering from illness, we'll say, well, let there be more difficulties for us. If we knew only that difficulties remind us of the previous blessings, or the blessings that we, for example, no longer possess anymore. If we knew that difficulties are kafara, expiation of previous sins, so let these difficulties prolong even more, so that more of my sins are burned away. If we knew difficulties are mean of eternal blessings, if we knew that difficulties are a wake-up call for Qiyamah, so we'll be more and more ready, ever ready. And lastly, if we knew difficulties make us understand our deterrence, and as well as the level of patience or means of recognizing real friends from those who are not so real. All of these things raise a bar for us. These serve as, if we knew that these are the effects of calamity upon you. So you look at a calamity, this is what a calamity does to a believer. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to ponder over these words of Ma'sumin alayhi salatu wassalam, look into it in our lives as we are all going through such difficult times. But of course, these joyous moments that are upon us, celebration of our 11th Imam's birth, inshallah, coming up on this Thursday. While it'll be a Thanksgiving Day, do join us at 7:30 for that Shab Jummah program in celebration of the Wiladat of our 11th Imam, Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salatu wasalam. Inshallah, keep us in your du'as, in your prayers, and make du'a for those who are suffering and struggling. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Mutawajjih ziyarat. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, assalamu alaikum ya Nabi Allah, assalamu alaikum ya Habib Allah, assalamu alaikum ya Khiyaratullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, assalamu alaikum ya Abu Abdullah, assalamu alaikum ya Ibn Rasulullah, assalamu alaikum wa ala jaddika wa abika wa ala ummika wa akhik wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, assalamu alaikum ya Gharib al-Ghuraba, assalamu alaikum mu'in ad-du'afa wal fuqara, assalamu alaikum shams ash-shumus wa anis an-nufus ayyul madfun barzatu sali ibn musarrada wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, assalamu alaikum sahib al-asr wal zaman, assalamu alaikum imam al-ins wal jan, assalamu alaikum sharik al-Quran, ajal Allah ta'ala farajak wa sahhal Allah makhrajak wa zuhurak wa ja'alana min awanik wa ansarik wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. والسلام.